This time, we're going to be exploring the world and ideas of Chris Langan,
Chris Langan.
a man who has often been called the smartest man in the world,
Right.
due to some of those crazy high IQ scores.
Yeah, we're going to be getting into that.
But we are going way beyond just IQ numbers today. We're really going to get into the substance of this guy's ideas.
Yeah, you have to know about Langan's life first to
Yeah.
really understand.
It's anything but ordinary, especially for someone with his intellectual gifts.
It really is.
We have excerpts from a long interview where Langan talks about his life, his thoughts on intelligence, and even his theories about reality itself. He gets really personal and surprisingly candid.
Yeah, and it's pretty fascinating.
It is.
Imagine having a mind that processes information faster and sees patterns that most people miss.
Yeah.
How would that affect your life? Would you thrive in traditional academic settings, or would you find them limiting?
You know, it's interesting you say that because he did not thrive in traditional academic settings.
No, he didn't.
He really,
He butted heads with a lot of people.
yeah.
He shared a story about a math professor who dismissed him because he asked a tough question. He wanted to understand the concept of infinitesimally small in calculus.
Oh, wow.
And instead of explaining it, the professor basically told him to drop the class.
Wow.
Told him he wasn't cut out for math.
Ouch. Talk about discouraging.
Yeah, so that kind of experience gets at a tension that Langan highlights throughout his life and work.
Okay.
Intelligence, he argues, isn't just about raw processing power,
Okay.
like a supercomputer.
Okay.
It's about how you apply that power, how open you are to new information, and even how you communicate with others.
So it's not just about being smart, it's about how you use your smarts.
Exactly. And traditional education systems, with their emphasis on rote learning and standardized tests, might not always recognize or nurture different ways of thinking.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It makes you wonder how many brilliant minds out there haven't been given the chance to fully develop their potential because they don't fit the mold.
Right. And Langan didn't let that stop him.
No, he didn't.
He kept learning on his own,
He kept learning.
even while working blue-collar jobs.
Absolutely.
He talked about how he'd buy used books, sometimes outdated textbooks, just to keep feeding his curiosity.
That's a testament to his dedication to learning.
It is.
He wasn't doing it for the grades or to impress anyone.
Right.
It was a genuine desire to understand, driven by pure intellectual passion.
I mean, that kind of self-directed learning can be challenging.
It can.
You don't have a professor guiding you.
Nope.
And the materials might not always be the latest or the greatest.
Right. But he was really good at it.
Yeah.
And he uses a cool analogy to describe this.
Okay.
He compares the mind to a camera.
Okay.
You need magnification, that depth of focus, to really analyze a problem.
Right.
But you also need aperture, that wide lens to see the connections and the bigger picture.
So it's about finding that balance between diving deep into a topic and being able to see how it connects to other things.
Exactly. And that's something we can all apply to our own learning, regardless of our IQ scores.
Right.
Think about how you approach a new subject.
Okay.
Do you tend to hyper-focus on the details, or do you step back and look for broader connections?
Yeah.
Both are important.
Both are important. Now, speaking of big picture thinking, we have to talk about Langan's attempt to create a theory of everything.
A theory of everything.
He calls it the CTMU, or the Cognitive-Theoretic Model of the Universe.
This is where it gets a little crazy. But
Yeah.
before we get lost in the technical jargon,
Right.
let's break down what he's actually trying to do.
Okay.
Langan is trying to unify not just physics,
Right.
but logic, language, geometry, and even consciousness into a single framework.
Oh, that's ambitious.
It is.
Most people struggle to unify their sock drawer. But seriously, it sounds like he's trying to bridge the gap between science and philosophy.
Exactly. And this fascination with unifying different areas of knowledge goes way back.
Okay.
Even as a teenager, he was trying to reconcile Einstein's theories about the universe with the work of philosophers like Bertrand Russell, who focused on logic and language.
So it's like he's trying to find that underlying pattern that connects everything together.
And for Langan, that underlying pattern points to something profound.
Okay.
The existence of God.
Okay.
He's not talking about the God of any particular religion, though.
Okay, this is where it gets really intriguing.
Yeah.
So how does someone who prides himself on logic and reason come to the conclusion that God exists?
For Langan, the concept of God emerges directly from the CTMU itself.
Okay.
He sees God as the ultimate reality,
Okay.
the source of everything that exists,
Okay.
including the universe and our own consciousness.
So it's not about faith or belief in the traditional sense.
No, it's more like a logical deduction based on his understanding of how reality is structured.
Mm.
He sees God as synonymous with the very identity and process of reality itself.
Now, this might sound a bit abstract,
It is.
but think about it like this. Imagine reality as a giant simulation, like in those sci-fi movies.
It's like the Matrix.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The CTMU is, in a way, Langan's attempt to describe the code of that simulation.
The code.
And within that code, he sees evidence of an intelligence,
Right.
a consciousness that's behind it all.
That's what he calls God.
That's what he calls God.
It's a bold and complex idea.
It is.
And it brings us to some philosophical terms that might be helpful here.
Okay.
His view aligns with concepts like pantheism, where God is seen as identical to the universe.
Okay.
But he also leans towards panentheism,
And pantheism.
which goes a step further,
Right.
suggesting that God is both within and beyond the universe.
So it's not just that everything is God,
Right.
but that God is also something more than everything. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is
And this is just the beginning of our exploration.
just the beginning.
Langan's ideas about free will, the nature of time, and what happens after we die are all tied into this model of reality.
They are.
Okay, I am officially mind blown.
Buckle up.
Let's take a breath and come back to explore those other ideas in part 2 of our deep dive.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into the mind of Chris Langan.
Yeah, we left off with this whole concept of God as being part of the fabric of reality.
Right, interwoven with it.
Yeah,
Like the intelligence behind a cosmic simulation.
a cosmic simulation.
It's heady stuff.
It is.
But it leads us to how Langan views the world that we experience every day.
And one thing that really stood out to me was his take on beauty.
Cute?
He sees a connection between beauty, truth, and purpose.
Yeah.
Something that he feels is missing in a lot of modern design and architecture.
He really dislikes modern architecture.
Does he?
He finds more meaning in older, more traditional styles.
Okay, so what is he getting at here?
It's not just about aesthetics.
Okay.
He believes that those older structures embody different values.
Okay, so is he saying that all modern buildings are ugly?
Not necessarily.
Uh-huh.
It's more about what those buildings represent.
So.
Think about those grand cathedrals from centuries past.
Okay.
They were designed to inspire awe, to connect people to something greater than themselves.
Right.
Langan feels that we've lost that sense of purpose in a lot of modern design.
So it's like we've shifted from creating spaces that uplift the spirit to spaces that are purely functional.
Right. He sees a lot of modern architecture as prioritizing utility and profit over beauty and meaning.
Yeah.
Think about those massive office blocks or cookie-cutter housing developments.
Right.
They might be efficient,
Yeah.
but do they inspire you? Do they reflect a deeper understanding of human needs and aspirations?
Yeah.
Langan would say no.
It makes me think about the spaces that I spend time in and like,
Mhm.
do I feel inspired or just kind of, yeah. It's a good reminder to be more mindful of how our environment affects us.
Right, absolutely. And for Langan, this ties into his larger critique of what he calls globalism.
Okay.
Now, he's not necessarily against the idea of global interconnectedness,
Right.
but he's deeply concerned about what he sees as a concentration of power in the hands of a select few.
He uses the word oligarchy a lot.
He does.
Who is he talking about specifically?
Financial elites,
Okay.
multinational corporations,
Nah.
and certain powerful individuals within institutions like the World Economic Forum or the United Nations.
Okay.
He sees them as pushing a globalist agenda
Okay.
that prioritizes their interests over the needs of individual nations and cultures.
So it's not like some shadowy cabal meeting in secret.
All right.
They're rather more subtle influence on global policies and systems.
Exactly. He sees this agenda playing out in a push towards homogenization,
Okay.
where unique cultures and traditions are eroded in favor of a more uniform global culture,
A more uniform global culture.
often driven by consumerism and technology.
He even shared that story about applying to the World Economic Forum as a young conservative
Oh, yeah.
and never hearing back.
And his liberal classmates got right in.
Yeah.
That experience really fed his belief that these institutions often present themselves as neutral platforms for dialogue, but in reality, they favor certain ideologies
Okay.
and exclude dissenting voices,
Yeah.
especially those who challenge their worldview.
That's really interesting. And it brings us to another one of Langan's concerns.
Okay.
The potential for technology to be used for control and manipulation.
He's very worried about that.
Is he?
Yeah, he's particularly worried about how technology shapes our access to information,
Yeah.
even our thought processes.
Yeah.
He talks about the constant bombardment of information that we face today.
Yeah.
Much of it filtered through algorithms and social media platforms.
Right.
How that can lead to a kind of mental overload.
Yeah, it's like we're being bombarded with so much information that we lose the ability to discern what's true or important.
It's information overload.
Yeah.
He's also concerned about the potential for censorship and the suppression of dissenting viewpoints.
Especially online.
Especially online. He feels technology can be used to create echo chambers, where we're only exposed to information that confirms our existing biases.
So it's not about being anti-technology,
Oh, no.
but being aware of its potential downsides.
Absolutely.
And being critical of the information we consume.
Exactly. Langan is urging us to be more discerning,
Okay.
to question the narratives that we're being fed,
Yeah.
and to seek out diverse perspectives.
Okay.
He's a big proponent of self-education and critical thinking.
So don't just accept what you're told.
No,
Do your own research.
exactly.
Now, all this talk about powerful institutions and hidden agendas might make some people think that Langan is a conspiracy theorist.
The C word.
He doesn't shy away from that term, does he?
He's definitely willing to consider possibilities
Yeah, okay.
that might seem out there to some people. He even talks about his own encounter with a UFO.
Maybe a UFO.
A UFO.
What happened?
While working for the Forest Service.
Oh, wow.
He describes seeing this large metallic elliptical object just hanging motionless in the sky.
Wow.
He even tried to figure out its distance using some basic techniques.
Yeah.
But it defied any conventional explanation.
Did he say it was an alien spacecraft?
He doesn't definitively say that,
Okay.
but he's open to the possibility.
He's open to it.
He ties this experience back to his broader theory of reality, suggesting that our current scientific understanding might be incomplete.
Okay.
There could be phenomena out there that we can't yet explain.
Okay, so keep an open mind.
Keep an open mind.
Question your assumptions.
Question everything.
And don't be afraid to consider alternative explanations.
Even if they sound strange.
Even if they sound strange.
Okay. And speaking of things that might seem strange to some, let's dive into his views on the existence of the devil.
Okay, this should be interesting. So does he believe in a literal devil with horns and a pitchfork?
Well, he definitely believes in the existence of evil as a force in the world.
Okay.
And he doesn't shy away from using terms like Satan and Lucifer.
Oh.
But he makes a distinction between the two.
Okay, so what's the difference?
He sees Lucifer as a more subtle, tempting force.
Okay.
The voice that whispers in your ear and leads you astray.
Mm-hmm.
Satan, on the other hand, represents a more purely destructive energy.
Okay.
Something that seeks to tear down and obliterate.
So how does this tie into his other ideas about globalism and the concentration of power?
Langan believes that those who seek to control and manipulate others, those who prioritize power over truth and compassion, might be more susceptible to this darker influence. It's like the more you crave power, the easier it is to fall prey to those negative forces.
It's a chilling thought, but it also makes sense in a way.
Power corrupts.
Power corrupts.
As they
say. And Langan is urging us to be aware of that, to be discerning about where our own priorities lie.
He constantly reminds us that we have a choice to make.
Okay.
Do we serve truth or do we serve mammon?
Mammon.
Which he uses as a term for material wealth and worldly power.
So it's a fundamental question, isn't it?
It is.
What are we truly seeking in life?
What are we seeking?
Is it fleeting pleasures and material possessions, or is it something deeper, something more meaningful?
Langan is challenging us to look beyond the superficial.
Yeah.
And to connect with something greater than ourselves.
Right.
He's not offering easy answers.
Okay.
But he's providing us with a framework for thinking about these big questions in a new way.
That's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
It is fascinating.
Langan's ideas might be controversial, but they certainly make you think.
They make you think, and we're not done yet.
We're not done yet.
We still need to explore his thoughts on life after death.
Okay.
And his suggestions for navigating this complex world.
All right, let's take another break and then dive back in for the final part of our exploration of Chris Langan's mind-bending ideas.
Sounds good.
Welcome back. I feel like we've been on quite the journey with Chris Langan.
We have.
From his unusual life to this concept of God.
Right.
As like this part of the fabric of reality.
Woven into it.
Yeah, and his critique of modern society.
He has a lot of critiques.
Yeah, he does.
But it all points to this idea of the persistence of consciousness after death.
Yeah, this is really one of Langan's most intriguing ideas.
It's
We
fascinating.
touched on this earlier, but it's worth unpacking further.
It is.
It really gets to the heart of Langan's views on, like, the consequences of our choices,
Right.
not just in this life, but beyond.
Exactly. He believes that our consciousness continues after our physical bodies die.
Okay.
But it's not a simple heaven or hell scenario.
Okay.
Think back to the CTMU
Okay.
and his idea of God as the fundamental structure of reality.
Okay, so how does that connect to the afterlife?
Well, Langan argues that if we live in a way that rejects or opposes that fundamental structure,
Okay.
that misalignment continues even after death.
Hmm.
He describes it as a state of separation from truth, meaning, and the source of ultimate reality.
So it's not about God punishing people,
No.
but more like a natural consequence of being out of sync with the very fabric of existence.
Exactly. It's like trying to swim upstream against a powerful current.
Okay.
Eventually, you're going to get exhausted and swept away.
So those who strive to live in alignment with truth and meaning will experience kind of this ongoing union with that ultimate reality.
That's how Langan sees it. He doesn't go into a lot of detail about what that state entails,
Okay.
but he emphasizes that it's not a passive existence.
Okay.
Consciousness continues to evolve
Okay.
and contribute to the unfolding of reality.
Even after death.
Even after death.
You know, it's interesting to think about this idea alongside all the different conceptions of the afterlife that we find in various religions and spiritual traditions.
Yeah.
It seems like Langan's offering a perspective that blends logic and a kind of intuitive understanding of consciousness.
He is. He's
Yeah.
taking those core concepts of judgment, consequence, and the persistence of the soul.
Right.
And he's filtering them through his own unique model of reality.
Right. It's definitely a thought-provoking approach.
It is.
Now, I know this concept of an afterlife might be a tough pill to swallow for some,
It might.
especially in our increasingly secular and materialistic world.
Langan would agree with that assessment.
Would you?
He sees modern society as being overly focused on acquiring wealth and indulging in fleeting pleasures,
Right.
often at the expense of deeper meaning and purpose.
It's like we've become so preoccupied with the material world that we've forgotten about our spiritual needs.
Exactly. And he believes that this disconnect has profound consequences,
Okay.
not just for individuals, but for society as a whole.
Right.
He sees it as contributing to the very problems he critiques.
Yeah.
The rise of globalism, the erosion of traditional values, and the growing influence of technocratic elite
Right.
that prioritizes control and efficiency over human well-being.
It's a sobering thought.
Yeah.
But is he offering any solutions? Is there a way to break free from this materialistic trap?
Langan believes that we can change course,
Okay.
but it requires a conscious effort to shift our priorities,
Okay.
both individually and collectively.
So it's about being willing to challenge our own assumptions and biases, to
Absolutely.
listen to those who hold different views,
Yes.
and to try to find common ground.
That's part of it. He also emphasizes personal responsibility,
Yep.
owning our choices,
Yeah.
and striving to live in accordance with our values.
So it's not about waiting for someone else to fix the problems,
No,
but about each of us doing our part to create positive change.
exactly.
Okay, what else does he suggest?
He talks about building strong communities,
Okay.
supporting local businesses and initiatives,
All
and
right.
fostering a sense of connection and belonging. He believes that by strengthening those bonds, we can create a more resilient and fulfilling society.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together,
Yeah,
that we need each other,
we do.
and that we can achieve more when we work collaboratively.
Absolutely. He also seems to put a lot of emphasis on connecting with something larger than ourselves.
Yeah, whether it's through spirituality, nature,
Yeah.
or a sense of shared purpose.
Exactly. You're picking up on a key theme in Langan's thinking.
Okay.
The need to find meaning and purpose beyond the pursuit of material wealth or personal gain.
Okay.
He sees that connection to something greater as essential for individual fulfillment
Yeah.
and for the well-being of society as a whole.
And he's not prescribing a specific path to get there.
No, he's not.
It's about finding what resonates with you,
Exactly.
whether it's through religion, philosophy, art, or simply spending time in nature and appreciating the beauty of the world around us.
That's the beauty of Langan's message.
Yeah.
He's not giving us a set of rules to follow, but rather a framework for thinking about our lives and our place in the universe.
I like that.
He's challenging us to awaken to our true potential,
Yeah.
to make conscious choices,
Ah,
and to strive to live in alignment with truth, goodness, and beauty.
it's a lot.
It is. Yeah.
Where do we go from here? It's been a wild ride. full of mind-bending concepts and challenging ideas.
It has been?
The journey doesn't end here, though.
It doesn't.
Langan's work is complex and multifaceted,
It is.
and there's always more to explore.
There is. Absolutely.
But most importantly, we encourage you to keep thinking,
Keep thinking.
keep questioning,
Keep questioning.
and keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Don't be afraid to challenge your own assumptions,
Bro.
to seek out diverse perspectives,
Right.
and to engage in thoughtful dialogue.
Even when it's difficult.
Whether you agree with Langan's conclusions or not, he forces us to grapple with some of the most fundamental questions about existence consciousness and the meaning of life.
The big questions.
The big questions, and that's a valuable exercise regardless of where you land on those questions.
It is.
So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with a sense of possibility,
Possibility.
a reminder that you have the power to shape your own understanding of the world and to make choices that align with your values.
Absolutely.
Keep seeking, keep questioning.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.